Shalom and welcome to Wisdom and Torah Ministries. This is the temple of my King. This is a short introduction to the latest virtual reality software that we have now, Hatikva Ministries, under my teacher Joseph Good and myself, Rico Cortez. We are presenting to you a basic introduction of what the temple would have looked like in the first century. So we are now in the Hurda Gate. We are looking eastward right now towards the Mount of Olives. We are looking now westward towards the upper city. Right now we don't have that ready, but it will be in the future. Now, there's some certain dynamics that I want to explain to you as we walk through. I'm going to raise my hands. Here you're going to see how I'm going to be able to either grab something, learn something by extending the green. Oh, that's a teleport. I'm sorry. The learn button, the green PowerPoint, is to grab a scroll or any infograph. Then we have teleport. Teleport is the quickest way to move from one location to the other, or we could also walk. It says walk, teleport, learn, and grab. We're going to be using every single one of those as we're walking through our demonstration. Now we're going through the Hurda Gate, and we're going to teleport right through it. You point to the doors, and then you go through. Now we are in the arches of on the southern part of the Temple Mount. And this is very important because arches was the way that the whole temple was built. Due to the seismic and also the purity laws, you needed to go in this particular fashion. Now, as we've gone through here, and right now, this is Solomon's Stables. Let me take you through Solomon's Stables. I'm going to move slowly because if I move my face real fast, it's gonna kind of freak you out a little bit with your brain and trying to see the whole thing as I'm getting to it myself. Sometimes I gotta go slow. As you see, there are arches underneath the Temple Mount, and this is the way it was. I have pictures of Solomon's stables that I took myself while I was there a year ago with Joseph Good, and it looks a lot like this, exactly like this. They did a great job capturing the texture and also all of the things we need to know about the structure on the mountain. Now, this area that I'm standing on was later added by Herod the Great in the expansion south of the temple. Now we're walking north, and here we have the big gates coming into the steps that will lead to the court of the Gentiles. And here we are now walking north. This is one of 5 gates in the wall surrounding the temple buildings, 500 by 500 cubits. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the temple of the Lord. This is the area where the royal store was located, as you see right here. I'm going to take you over there for 1 second so you see how big the columns, and I want you to notice the floor. This floor you're going to see throughout our demonstration, and this floor was actually from a picture that I took in Jerusalem, in the city of David, where the archaeologists had the inspiration from tiles that they found in the sifting project, and they figured out how the temple would have looked like. So we took some artistic freedoms using the patterns that they showed on the city of David as you walk in. So you're going to see this all throughout the temple proper as we go in. Now, it tells us that it required 3 men with arms extended for 1 column. So it's really interesting how big they are. And look at the magnificence of this. Herod built this. This is one of the common areas where people would meet before they will come into the temple. As you can see in the far north there, you see the temple building 100 cubits high. We're going to go right through there in a minute. Now, this is not going to be an extensive tour of the temple. I'm going to leave that for my temple course in January. But I just want to give you an insight of the magnitude of the size. This is one of the doors of the temple. Going in past the 500 cubits by 500 cubits. This was 10 cubits wide by 20 cubits high. That is 32 feet high. Now the wall was probably an extra 10 cubits high too. So what we have here is we're entering now into the court of the Gentiles passing, or the nations passing the temple wall, the 500 by 500. So when you look to the east right here, that's one of the eastern wall that makes up part of the 500 by 500. The wall over here behind me makes up the southern wall that encases all the buildings of the temple, and because of laws of purity, this was necessary. And now we are entering into some buildings here. Now the buildings that you see in front, I'm going to take you into it. These are the bathrooms. Cistern 1 and 2 are immediately under this. These are the bathrooms for the people who will come to the high holidays. You need a bathroom. Okay? Notice that it's not inside the temple. It's in a different area. I'm walking west. According to the Mishnah, these are some of the doors, as you see in front of me, some of the doors surrounding the wall. Midot 1:1 talks about these. And here's a mikvah. The mikvah that you needed for immersion before you went into the temple. Come back out. Now, if you look at this is about a fountain that is in Jerusalem to this day. It's called the Kos Fountain when you go up to the Temple Mount. Normally, when we enter the Temple Mount, we enter right through the west, the way I'm looking right now. And now, this older building is also 4 bathrooms. You got men's bathrooms, you got women's bathrooms. And in this case, it's another mikvah, okay? So we have mikvah for men, mikvah for women, okay? Also outside the wall right here, you have mikvahs and purification places. Now I'm looking to the south, and that's the size of the building in scale, 100 cubits high. The buildings on the right is Beit Aptinas on the right. They used to make the incense, and the Sanhedrin council met in there. The middle buildings here in front of me are some of the gates from consecrated area and unconsecrated areas that have function. They used to do some, they had like 3 chambers that did particular functions. We will explain that a little bit more. The southwestern building is called Beit Otzurot, and the police department, the Levitical guard, were housed there. And now we're going to take you to the Soreg. The Soreg, we will be talking a little bit more about it. And if you can see, we also have in Latin or Greek that you cannot go beyond this point. Now, a Gentile cannot go beyond this point. Someone who's uncircumcised cannot step over this threshold to get here. You cannot do that. Now you are in holy area. This area is holier than the area behind me. And now we're going to start dealing with levels of holiness. If you see, this is the hell coming up right here. There is like 10 cubits from here to this area right there. Okay? Now, when we get to the steps, it's higher elevation. Okay? And I'm not going to talk about the elevation on this side. I want to walk towards the east. And as I'm walking through, I can see the magnificence of the building, the beauty of it, the pillars, everything that would show us what it would have looked like back then. Water drainage when it rained, as you see right here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know something. Joseph Good, this is based on his research of 40 years of the temple, taking archaeological, biblical, historical, extra biblical evidence of historical accounts, topography, geography, in order for us to get a better idea what the temple would have looked like. And I'm telling you, this is all to scale. So we know that the temple was built as a step structure. The Bible tells us that you can step, you can stand on the east. We are now on the eastern gate, inside the wall. Behind me is the Mount of Olives. In front of me is the eastern gate that you were walking through when you're dealing with Kedusha, things of holiness, because it shows you the progression of elevation from one area to the next. I'm outside where a Gentile would have been able to walk. Past the soreg, the columns right here, on the barrier, beyond that area, then only Israelites, people who are circumcised, can go in. Now, what's interesting is you have 6 cubits. 6 cubits from here, 14 steps to the top. Now, when you look into, you start walking up. Now you have a higher elevation. Again, 10 cubits wide by 20 cubits high. That was the size of the door. When I look to my left, there's a little chamber right here. There's some scrolls. What is that place about? Let me show you what that is. Right here you have what is called Numbers 19. And if you read the chapter, it tells us about the red heifer. Why is that speaking about the red heifer here? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the place where they used to store the ashes of the red heifer. Now, the cool thing and feature that we have on this program, or VR, is that we can hit the learn button that you see on the screen. And we can point anywhere and you're going to have scrolls pop up. That's information that we need so we can read as you learn how to do this. Okay? And you get information and you get educated on the process. The building in front of me, directly north of where I'm standing, is a very important building. I'm going to teleport because it's quicker to get there, guys. This is a magnificent building, and I'm grateful for the time and effort that Joseph Good has spent doing all the research, and I've been able to help in some areas. I'm blessed to be part of this project. This is called the Sanhedrin Lower Court. This is where they will meet, the Lower Sanhedrin, for certain cases. So there's 3 places where the Sanhedrin will meet. In Beit Aptinas, right here, east of the court of the women, outside, before they entered. And also in outside the Hurda gate, south of the temple, right outside the temple walls. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am in the court of the women. Notice the floor. We took some liberties to see what it would have looked like. But every pattern that you see on the ground here is based on the inspiration of the archaeologists that came up with all the evidence. So this is up-to-date information that we've gathered. Now again, look at the Learn button. You point the Learn button and you have quotes from the Mishnah. From here, it tells us what the area would have looked like. It says in the Mishnah Midot 2:5, Ezrat Nashim was 135 cubits long by 135 cubits wide. And there were 4 chambers in its 4 corners. So it gives you basic information based on biblical evidence what the temple would have looked like. Now, I want you to notice, let me teleport to the center. This is the house of my king. Magnificent in majesty. Amazing. To have a privilege to at least see what it would have looked like based on the evidence that we have. And I'm not really going to give you an in-depth tour of the temple, but I do want to show you what some of the chambers would have looked like. And I'm going to pick one in particular. I am looking towards the Nicanor gate. Now, the whole area that you see in front of me is actually 50 cubits high. Okay? The buildings were 50 cubits wide by 100 cubits long. The ones I'm going to show you, Beit Asrot, Beit Aptinas, Beit Hamuket, and 40 cubits high. But in here in the court of the women, this is where the Levites will stand on these 15 steps. Now, do you remember the steps that we had outside coming up to the door to come into the court of the women? Those steps, the measurements is a different cubit. The cubit is smaller. I'm sorry, that's not true. The cubits out there is the same as the cubit here. But when we go into the area of the priests, the 12 steps in the area that I will show you, the steps are a little bigger than these here. Why is that? Because we're moving into a greater level of holiness, a higher elevation of consecration. So even the measurements of the temple change when you go from one place to the next that is higher in holiness. Let me take you to the shofars here. Let me see if I can hit a learn somewhere in here so you can see it. Now the shofars, 13 of them, all around the area. These were designed for offerings and donations. Donations for any need in the temple. That's where the donations issues come from. It comes from the temple. Now, I'm going to take you to the northwest chamber of the court of the women, which is the leper's chamber. Lishkat HaMetzoraim. Now, this is what it would have looked like, more or less. Okay, remember, we're taking some freedoms and detail and things like that, but we do know that the walls, for example, this was all Herodian style decorations. Okay, when you go to Masada, you can see what it would have looked like to a place that it was very much of majesty and things like that. We're going to go down the steps. Why is this important? See if I'm able to go down here. I'm dropping real fast. Okay, I could walk down. As I'm walking down, what do I see? I see the mikvah. Now, remember that the Yeshua healed the leper, a Samaritan. We're not going to expand on that story very long, but I want to kind of grab your interest, because according to the evidence that we have, this mikvah that was for the lepers being healed was never really used for true leprosy until for consecrating a true leper until Yeshua came. And this is very important. Underneath this mikvah, we have a cistern. It's called Cistern 27, discovered by Charles Warren and Conrad Sheik. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go up. I'm going to walk up the stairs. Be patient with me here as I'm walking up the stairs. Now I teleport there, and now we're walking out, ladies and gentlemen. I pray that you are blessed by showing you the magnificence of the temple. Now we're looking south. We are walking towards the Azara, which is the area of the priests. Now, in this door right here, it's very important. When a leper was going through the ritual of purification, of incorporation, he had to come to this door, the northern wicket. You see how big it was. And if a woman who gave birth, and she's bringing the offering, she needed to come to this door. A woman who was accused of something immoral, she had to come partake of the bitter waters in this door. A lot of events, biblical events. And a Nazirite who was announcing the end of the vow, he needed to come to this door. It's only one of the places that shows us a lot of biblical evidence that we need. Now we are in the porch between the door of the court of the women, and we're going to enter now to a high level of holiness, which is the Azara. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready to enter where the priests will do their service and where the altar will be? Now, welcome to the priestly courtyard. As you can see, we have the area Esrat Israel. We have the area where the court Israelites can come to. 11 cubits wide by 135 cubits long from north to south. Look how beautiful this was. Now the altar was 32 cubits by 32 cubits, and it was 10 cubits high. Okay? It was quite big, 15 feet. Now the Dukan, which is this area that we have right here, this step, this is where the Levites will sing from. No Israelite can stand here. Only the Levites can stand in this place. Israel in the bottom, the Levites singing here. Now this area is 1 cubit by 1 cubit. See how wide it is? You know who can stand here? The priests that will disqualify, that they have an imperfection in their bodies, they were not thrown out, never to enjoy the temple. They could not officiate, but they were allowed to dress in white garments, except that they would not wear the belt. And this is the area, 11 cubits, where they can walk in without stepping over here in this place, that only the priests that were acceptable for sacrifice can stand, 13 at a time, doing the Tamid, the morning and the afternoon service. Now here you see the 24 rings. That's for the animals, to keep them steady in order for them to make sure that they slaughter them here and they, cut their throats. In this case, just to offer the blood here. Now, look at the veil, how big it is. You see a sun and a moon and mountains. It's not a pyramid. Those are mountains. We're trying to figure out a way, but if you go a little closer. Now, I want to show you something before I go a little closer there. I just saw it. I want to show it to you. This is really cool. Now, you see what I'm looking at right there on the ground? That is a drainage system. According to the archaeological evidence, this is what it would have looked like in the time of Herod. So we are using information, and we're using things that recently have been discovered down in the city of David, in the Shiloah, and also in the Pilgrimage Road that they have recently uncovered. Look how big. Now, remember I told you about the steps? This is bigger in the cubit than the one outside in the court of the women. Why? Because we're going to a greater level of holiness. Notice, you got some steps, 12 steps, one long one. 3 steps, one long one. That's exactly the architecture used back in the day. Now, I want to take you to where the veil is and look at the floor. Now, I want you to notice how big the veil was. That is crazy. Now, let's see what we can learn here. Comes toward us. Now, the letter of Aristeas, which was an eyewitness of this, bears witness of the height and the extent of the veil, how big it was. Also, we have this one over here that it talks about Jewish wars. I want to read it to you because I think it's important that we get this information. Jewish war says this: before these hung a veil of equal length of Babylonian tapestry, with embroidery of blue and fine linen, of scarlet also and purple, with marvelous skill, nor was this mixture of material without its mystic meaning. It typified the universe. Okay, so the veil represented the universe, the heavens. And that's very... I'm sorry. Resume. I hit the wrong button. And that's very important to us to know. Now we are inside the porch. It's called the ulam, the door. Okay? And here we're inside looking at the veil. We're looking to the north with a big chain that you can climb. I climbed that all the way. And that's the vines. The temple is the garden. And the vines represented the Lord as the Lord of the vineyard. Israel is the vine. Okay? Here we have the tables. You will put the new showbreads here before you remove the ones inside. You go from here, you put them on the golden altar of, the gold of the showbread presentation. And when you remove the showbread in the Sabbath, then you put them in the golden table. Okay? Now we're going to go through the doors, 20 cubits high by 10 cubits wide. The gates normally, I think this is a little bigger, but I can't remember exactly right now. So I don't want to give you a number and then be wrong. And I'm going to come through. Now we are in the Holy of Holies. I'm sorry, in the holy place. Look at the floor again. We're using all the archaeological information to teach us about this. Now, again, we do know, however, that the altar of incense didn't look exactly that way, or that the showbread looks a little different, and the menorah still needs to have one more step on it. It's supposed to be 3 in the bottom. But we're working on these things to improve them as we get along and we get more funding, okay? So we just needed something to have with what we could for right now. So in Exodus 25 talks about the showbread. Then we have Exodus 27 talks about the menorah. And then here, Yomah, let's bring that up. Yomah says, Mishnah Yomah, which deals with Yom Kippur. So he walked through the sanctuary until he arrived between the 2 curtains, which separate the holy from the Holy of Holies. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what I do want to do, however, is walk over. Now, many people say, which veil rented? And it's the one behind me at the entrance of the temple. As I'm walking towards the Holy of Holies, now I'm going to show you something very significant. On the ground, you see the censer and the utensils they use for the temple, for the high priest on the Day of Atonement. Now I'm walking between the veil. I am walking from the south, looking north. I'm walking between the veils. So how many veils do we have right now? We have 3. One at the entrance of the temple, and 2 dividing the holy from the Holy of Holies. I look west, and here is the foundation stone. Now, if you look at the wall, it was overlaid with gold. If you look at the roof, there are holes. Why are they there? And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. Okay, but right now we're going to walk away from the Holy of Holies. We're walking now south, and we're going to be looking east, literally between the veil. Exactly what the priest will do now. When the priest will come out of the Holy of Holies, he will not just turn his back to the Lord. He will do the prayers. He will bow down, prostrate himself, and then he will take slowly steps back, like people do today at the hotel. And then once he takes some steps back, then he would remove himself with reverence and awe. Okay, so as we're moving away, I want to show you something really cool. Take a little trip to the temple building. When you come here on the northern part of the porch, before you go into the Holy of Holies, look how big that chain was. It's incredible. The magnitude and the beauty of the temple. The veil, how big it was. And as we come through here, now we have steps. Now every room, these are chambers that were connected to the temple building, 100 cubits high by 100 cubits long. Okay? So as we go up the steps, I'm going to go a little quicker. We're going to end up near the roof. Okay? And from here, you can really see the beauty. I'm going to try to be on the edge, on the ledge right here. There we go. Look how pretty that is. That's the royal store. I'm looking right now at the Betos Road. I'm looking southeast to Beit Aptinas. Now I'm looking still high to the temple building. Now from here, we're going to now show you the fourth veil. So we go through here. Only a priest can come through here once every 7 years. There's an argument between once every 7 years or every 3 years. But look at the veil on the second story. Remember, it's 100 cubits high. Okay? The temple building. So you have the same division in the second story of the building as you would in the holy place on the Holy of Holies. As I go through and I go through the veil, this is how the priests used to go and clean the walls. They could get in one of these, and if you notice, you can only see from the inside, and if they are led down to the temple, as you look down, they can clean only in front. They cannot see behind them or to the sides. Amen? And this is the second story of the temple. We can go to the roof right now, but we're not going to do that. Okay, we'll take you outside. We want to leave something for the temple course. So sign up. Wisdom and Torah events.com. Sign up as soon as you can so you're able to have your spot left. Spots are limited. Or we're going to do some courses using virtual reality. I want to show you something that is archaeologically important. Lately, there's a lot of people talking about the Fort Antonia being located on the Temple Mount. Now, what you're looking right now is the latest archaeological research that we've done in regards to, let me go to the edge right here, the ledge, see if I can do it. Yes, right here. Okay? Okay. What you're looking at is directly north of the temple. The dome that you see in front of me is Beit HaMoket. The dome that you see on the right side is Beit Hanitzot. We will go into those buildings in a minute. Behind me is south. The way I'm looking right now is east. North of the temple, what you're looking at right now is called Fort Antonia. Now, Conrad Schick, this is the research that Conrad Schick did back in the 1800s and the late 1800s in regards to the location of the Fort Antonia in connection with the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount, every building of the temple, all the buildings of the temple were inside the area known as 500 cubits by 500 cubits. So in the time of Herod, Herod added to the north beyond the 500 cubits. That means that the Fort Antonia could easily fit north of the northern wall of the temple without encroaching on the 500 cubits by the 500 cubits. The area that you see was added by Herod. The royal stoa that you saw in the south was added by Herod. It was outside of the 500 by 500 cubits that the temple buildings are needed to be. That's a very important piece of information that we need to have. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to teleport to the bottom so we're able to see this a little bit more. Okay? This is the cool part, because I can go from one location to the next. Now I am on top of the connection between the Parva, right here, the building behind, and Beit Hamoket over here. Now, I'm not going to go in the building right now because I want to show you something very significant, what I just talked about the northern wall, so you're able to see it. Okay, now, you see that wall right in front of me? The wall right in front of me with a triangle, that is the Taddy Gate. We're going to go through that in a minute. But the wall right in front of me, that's the original northern wall. That is within the area of the 500 by 500. Now, beyond, going north in front of me, as long as none of that building is inside where I'm at, then we're fine. So archaeologically, when we know about Khan Rashid's model and the area of where the fort was located, in no way, shape, or form, Fort Antonia was inside the holy area where the temple would have been. So moving the temple to the city of David is absolutely makes no sense. Because if you understand archaeology and topography and geography, you will clearly see how Fort Antonia can fit north of where the temple is. North of, why? We see it. So let me take you down there now. I want to show you. We go through the Taddy Gate. This is the way the priest that would ritually defile will come out of, from this particular location. And now, this is the northern wall of the temple. To the west, to the east, anything from here looking this way is holier. None of the Roman structures were built in here. Herod, he built this fort in commemoration of his relationship that he had with Mark Antony. Now, when you come through here, let me show you how big the plaza was. Look at this area. Surely you can place here all the soldiers. This is the plaza. This is not even the place where they will sleep. Let's see if we can get through this door. The fort itself is right in there. Okay? This is the common area. Now, Josephus tells us that the plaza was a location where the soldiers, when they will get paid in their salary, they will do demonstrations, like a whole parade, to intimidate the Jewish people. Fort Antonia fit perfectly where it's supposed to fit. Now, I'm going to go walking in through the north, through one of the gates, and I'm going to take you back to the Azara, the priestly courtyard. Then I'm going to give you a really cool tour of two of the buildings. First, I'm walking eastward. Then I'm going to talk about what you see right here on the door, that little marker. I will talk more about that in the loss of encroachment in the temple courts. Right now, I just want to take you to the tour so you can see how nice it looks. This is looking west. This is looking south. This is southwest. I'm looking southwest right now. The altar. Then you can point to any of the, see, 1 Chronicles 25. It will come at me and I can start reading. Okay, if you come to the course, you'll be able to go through this yourself. Okay, I'm going to go into one of the buildings. Okay, this is one of the consecrated areas from Beit Hanitzot. the northeastern corner of the priestly courtyard. Okay, this is the room of the spark, building of the spark. Here is where the Levites will sleep. Let me take you to a corner so you can see how beautiful it is. It's also where the Levites will store their instruments. This is the area where they will keep themselves warm. And this is the area where they will sleep. Now I want to show you something really cool. What would happen if a priest cannot officiate that morning? Okay? Actually, forget about that. I'm going to take you to something really important over here. Where is the Sanhedrin Council? I'm walking out through. Those doors have purpose. Let me take you through. Be flexible with me, guys, because I'm thinking as I'm going through. This is a rinsing chamber. Underneath this particular chambers, you have water come through. The skins were salted. Everything was prepared here. Even the drainage system, right? Doing everything for the animals, sacrifices. You go here now to the high chamber. This is what the Mishnah tells us. This thing existed. See? Midot 5:3 and Yomah 3:6. There were 6 chambers in the Azara, which is the priestly courtyard. Make it a little higher for you. 3 in the north and 3 in the south. Those in the north, that's where we're at, Lishkat HaMelach, which is the room we're going into, Lishkat HaParva, which is the room we're in right now, and Lishkat HaMedichim, which is the room we left. Lishkat HaParva is where they would salt the hides of the consecrated animals, and on its roof there was a place of immersion for the high priest on the day of Yom Kippur. We're going to take you there a little later. Now, as we go through here, we are in the salt chamber. Okay? And it's interesting that underneath the areas where we're talking about right now, there were 2 cisterns, huge cisterns, number 29 and number 30, according to Khan Rashik. Now, as we leave, going southward, we're back into the Azara, the priestly courtyard. As I'm walking east, I make a right turn and I go directly south. I am now in the area of Israel, where the Israelites can come in. Israel male can come through, and they can be in this area. No Israelite male can step on those steps. No Levite can go on that platform. Only the priest can go there, except when a woman, an Israelite, can bring a sacrifice. They needed to go to a prescribed location in the temple that only they can go for the sole purpose of bringing an offering. That's it. Look how beautiful and how big it is. Okay, as I'm walking south, we're going to go into what is called the Beit Aptinas and the chamber of the hewn stone. Now, as I enter, look at the floor, how beautiful it is. I'm going to make a quick right, and what do we find? The laver. You were probably wondering, where was the laver? Okay, it's actually inside Beit Aptinas. According to Ezekiel, chapters 47, it says that is south of the altar. Now, if I come out of this door, then the door that I came out of is immediately south of the altar. Every model of the temple, they put the kior right here in this location. But we got a problem, ladies and gentlemen. The commandment says that no priest can be between the porch and the altar. Between the porch and the altar. Without washed hands and unwashed feet. Well, let me ask you a question. How can they wash their hands and feet if they're not allowed to be in this area where the kior was? Ezekiel 47 tells us exactly where it is, which is south of the altar. So, we put it in its right location. By the way, the Mishnah bears witness of this. That is actually south of the altar. Right where I'm at, where the water is. Now, in the future, in the second story up there, we're going to be able to put the wheel. It's called a mugni, in which they would drop the kior to get the water from what is called the fixed well that is found directly underneath this building, the Etam, okay? And also cistern 28 is directly underneath this building, according to Khan Rashid and Charles Warren and all those guys. Now, this location here is when they used to have the priestly garments for the priests to officiate in the temple. Okay? This is all Beit Haptinas. Now, they used to make the incense in the second stories. Now, this building that you see here, this room that you see here, is a very important room. Why? Because it's the location where the high priest will stay for the 7 days leading to Yom Kippur. 7 days he was sequestered. He was taken away for 7 days and he had to stay in the temple. Well, this is the place where he would sleep. North of the Sanhedrin Council, inside Beit Haptinas, on the southeastern corner of the priestly courtyard. Are you with me so far? You're going to learn a lot more when you come to the temple course. Coming through the doors, and here we have the location of the big Sanhedrin Council. This is where they will meet. Now, this is a very important location, ladies and gentlemen, because we do know that Stephen, the whole case of Stephen, would have happened here. Also, when Gamaliel, who was the president of the Sanhedrin Council, called the disciples, and they had a case, this is the place where it was done. So there's a lot of history that we have when we study this. And lastly, let me go back to the priestly courtyard. I want to take you through a quick tour. It's a little longer than I want to give you, but it's so beautiful. I wanted you to get the majestic beauty of the temple, the house of my king. I'm in awe of what I'm learning. My level of understanding has dramatically changed because I can literally see exactly more or less what it would look like. Now I want to take you something really cool just for you. Okay? I'm not going to show you Beit HaMoket. Two things I want to show you. I'm going through Beit Hanitzot. Then I'm going to go up the steps. Remember, we have a piece of information about the roof. Whoops. Slowly going up. I'm going to try to walk up. It's a little tricky. I'm going to walk up. You can actually try to walk up. You move your hands and you walk up with this thing. It's kind of cool. Okay, let me go here. Now, I'm in the second story. I'm going to show you something really cool. This is our chambers where the priests and the Levites will sleep. Remember, there's a lot of priests. You need places to house them. Now, I'm looking north right now. You see this room? It's a very important room. This is the house of stone, Beth Evan. Why is this important? Because the priest who was chosen to slaughter to sprinkle the blood of the red heifer, this is the place that he was kept for a week before he did the offering of the red heifer. Para Aduma. Okay, it's located in the north side in the second story of Beit Hanitzot. Very important piece of detail. Now we're going to come back out to the steps, and I'm going to show you something that I think you need to know that is important. I went all the way around. I took the long route. Okay, let me turn around. Okay, there we go. Let's go to the roof. So we're going up to the roof. I want you to notice something important. We're going to look to the north. We're going to see Fort Antonia. Look how big it was. The eastern side of Fort Antonia. We're walking down, looking up towards the northwest. It was huge. Okay? Now, as I'm looking west, I see the big size of the temple. And now, you see this mikvah here on the roof of Beit Hanitzot? This place was important because on the Day of Atonement, there was the high priest was the location where he would do the mikvah, the first mikvah for the Yom Kippur service. It says, and they brought him to the Bet HaPavah, which was in the holy place, in a holy place, they spread a sheet of linen between him and the people. He sanctified his hands and his feet, and he stripped off. Rabbi Meir says he stripped off and he sanctified his hands and his feet, and he went down and immersed. He came up and dried himself. They brought him white garments. He done and sanctified his hands and his feet. Now, this is the place where the priest will do his first immersion of the roof. The Mishnah talks about it. The roof of Beit HaNitzot. So, this is only a short introduction to the brand new program we have of the Temple of my King. We are looking at the court of the women. We are looking at Fort Antonia and the plaza. I'm looking at the Azara and the temple building. Lastly, I want to take you down for the last cool piece of information that we need. We are walking west on the Aksadra, which is a platform where the priests were used to the priests would take guard right here. We're going to enter Beit HaMoked on the northwest corner of the temple. As I'm walking through, every single one of these chambers have function. And then you see the steps. I'm going to go down on the steps, start walking down again. Actually, I'm going to do something kind of cool here. Whoops. I'm going to try to look down. Actually, I can't, so let me go down this way. Let me walk down. Walk down. Walking all the way to the bottom of the steps. This is where the priest would sleep. I'm going to keep down going. Okay, so what would happen is this. Let me repeat this again real quick. I think it's important. The priest will sleep here. They will keep warm in front, right here. Ezekiel 42:13, and he said to them, the north chamber and the south chambers, which are before the main wing, they are holy chambers, where the priests who approach the Lord shall eat on the most holy things. There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meal offerings, and the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings, for the place is holy. This place is high level of Kedusha. Okay, so now, I want to show you something. What would happen if a priest is defiled? That he cannot officiate that day. Ritual impurity. He will go down from here. He will go down to the bottom, down the steps. It's called going. He needs to go out of the temple because he's ritually impure. He cannot officiate. But he cannot go through the upper chambers because it's most holy. So how would he get out of the temple buildings? There is a subterranean way of doing it. Right over here, he goes down. He will take a mikvah in this location. Now, you see this corner right here? This is a bathroom. And this is called the seat of dignity. Back in the time, if a priest, I was trying to grab but it's not working. If this door was closed, somebody knocked, clearly you know that somebody was using it. So this was the bathroom. It was called the seat of dignity. This is the mikvah. They will come there. They will do a mikvah. Now they start going south. They start going east. From west to east. Behind me is west. I'm going east. I took a mikvah. As you see that opening here on the right, I walk down. This is all underground. And then we will sit here waiting who will be acceptable and who will not be acceptable. Then we come up, and let's say you cannot officiate that day. Then you make a right. And you have to leave the temple. How would I leave? Right through this tunnel that will take us to the Taddy Gate. That's why it looks like a triangle. Because everyone would know that that's the exit for the priests who were not able to officiate that day. Now, what's interesting is Conrad Sheik, I think it's Charles Wilson, found the tunnel underneath the Temple Mount. And this is what it would have looked like. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a basic introduction to the beautiful temple of the Lord as it would have looked like in the Second Temple period, with all the archaeological research, geographical, topographical, biblical, historical, rabbinical, put together over 40 years of research by Joseph Good. And I hope and I pray that you have enjoyed our simple tour of the house of the Lord. Shalom to all of you. If you want to know more about this, we're going to keep expanding on the temple. All we need is more funding, and the Lord will provide as He sees fit. And if you're interested in courses, please contact us at the website wisdomantorah.com and subscribe to our page so that we can do more courses. Imagine the amount of information we can really share with you if only we're able to teach you from a literal building. Now imagine your 8, 9-year-old, 12-year-old kid, Levi, walking up all that ladder with oil to put the oil on top so it can stay lit and bring light to people in the temple. I climbed it. It's pretty high. But that's going to be another day. I pray that this was a blessing to you. I pray that this is something that you would consider praying for, that the Father will continue helping us so we can develop curriculum courses, so we can develop courses to teach high school, college, archaeological students in different areas of study, so that we can learn about the services, so we can learn about the New Testament context of the temple and the feasts. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Thank you so much. Shalom to all of you. And I look forward to sharing more about the temple in the near future.